United States Department of Agriculture.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. So good morning or good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Maude, and today I'm going to present you the REPLACE project, a unique project collecting expertise on new approach methodologies. But first of all, as you all probably know, the use of laboratory animals raises different concerns. So ethical, scientific, and economical concerns. Ethical because there is an increasing demand from the public to reduce animal testing. Economical because the housing and the breeding of this animal is very expensive. And also scientific concerns because the results that we obtain with animal studies are not always representative of what we can observe in humans, especially now with the increased availability of human materials, which might have a better extrapolation value. But how far are we today with the replacement of animal testing? Well, it's not an easy question. And in some of the cases, we can say that the answer can be yes, because we know that we have a number of replacement methodologies that have been developed and that are officially validated. And these are successfully applied in certain fields of biomedical research and also toxicology, mostly in toxicology, I would say. And this is the case for very simple and local endpoints in toxicology, such as, for example, skin irritation and corrosion. For example, for these endpoints, we could fully replace the use of animals by alternative methods. So this is an example of successful one-on-one replacement. However, when we talk about more complex and systemic endpoints, the one-on-one replacement is not always possible at the moment. So this is the case, for example, in toxicology for repeated dose toxicity, reproductive and developmental toxicity, and also cancer and infectious disease. So in those cases, it is very complex to evaluate these endpoints or to study these biomedical research questions using only alternative methods. So in this case, scientists will then make use of a combination of alternative models combined with in vivo experiments. So they will, for example, work first in vitro or in silico, and then combine the results that they obtain with an in vivo study. In toxicology, the combination of different results obtained by different methodologies is called Integrated Approach to Testing and Assessment, so IATA. But over the last decades, a lot of progress has been made regarding the replacement of animal testing, and the term New Approach Methodologies, or NAMs, has been introduced. And NAMs are very broad. They comprise, first, the most known NAMs are in vitro methods, which are themselves very broad. They go from simple 2D cell line cultures to more complex models such as 3D organoids or spheroids. New approach methodologies, we also have in silico or computer modeling, high throughput screenings or omics methods, but also in chemical assays that are assays that will evaluate how a chemical will react with a material, but without the use of tissues or cells. And we also include in NAMs alternative in vivo models, which are animals that are not included in the legal definition of lab animals. And it can be the case for Drosophila or so fruit flies or flatworms, for example. So behind the term new approach methodologies are grouped all the methods that avoid the direct use of a living animals in biomedical research, but also in regulatory testing. And even though the use of NAMs is very promising, we are also facing some challenges related to their use. And the first one being that the development and use of NAMs is continuously evolving. And you can often see that researchers are working in parallel regarding the development of a method, resulting in slightly different methodologies, and then leading to a lack of standardization. There is also a limited to no regulatory framework available for the NAMs, because scientists need to agree on this framework, and it takes a lot of time. We are also facing a lack of trust and trainings in these new technologies, as animal testing remains the gold standard at the moment. And finally, it might be difficult to find reliable, relevant, and up-to-date information about NAMs. To give you an example, if a scientist is working for 20 years in the field of liver organoids, they have a good idea of what is possible to do at the moment with these technologies. But for a person working in a very local ethical committee, it might be difficult to know what is possible at the moment regarding liver organoids, for example. So it might be difficult for them to know what is possible to do regarding the replacement of animal testing. From these challenges, we can see that there is a clear need to centralize the available knowledge we have on labs. And this is exactly the goal of the Replace project. So the idea behind the project is to create an extensive overview of the available expertise on NAMs we have in Belgium, and this in one central open access database. So the database is available via our website here, so www.replace.be. We are collecting methods in which people have expertise. So it can be a method that they develop themselves, but also a method that they are simply using without having developing it. We are also collect methods that are part of a broader research strategy, as we know that the full replacement of animal testing is not possible at the moment. We know that mostly people will use a research strategy comprising in vitro, for example, and then go to in vivo. These are also methods that we are collecting. And regarding the financing of the project, so in Belgium, we have 3 different regions which are responsible for animal welfare, and 2 of them are financing the project. So it has been launched in 2017 by the Flemish region in Belgium, and 1 year later, the Brussels region also joined this project. So it is now a joint project between 2 departments of animal welfare in Belgium. And regarding the coordination of the project, so it is coordinated by Cienzano, which is the Public Health Institute in Belgium, with my colleagues Dr. Berit Mertens and Mieke van Mulders. And at the VUB, so the University of Brussels, by the In Vitro Toxicology Department with Professor Vera Rogiers and myself. But we don't do this alone. We are also supported by a Replace steering committee. And the steering committee is composed of experts from in the field of NAMs and alternative methods. And they come from different backgrounds, so academia, but also industries and the governments even. And the steering committee helped us during the development of the database and now for its further expansion. And in order to collect the expertise we have in Belgium in a fast and consistent manner, we have developed the Replace online tool. So the work started first by the evaluation of the template of the DB-ALM. So the DB-ALM is a database launched by the European Commission 20 years ago. And this in order to provide information about alternative methods to animal testing that are used in biomedical research and toxicology. But this database, the template of the database was very extensive, and you would need to complete a lot of information to add your method in this database, such as, for example, the protocols that you were using in details, the tested compounds, the results obtained, and it was also very much focused on validation. Therefore, this template was simplified to create the new Replace template. The idea was to include only information that we were thinking that are the most essential. So it would be, for example, a title, a short description, some keywords. And once the Replace template was created, it was then evaluated during a pilot study, which was performed with experts from different organizations. And these experts could provide then feedback on the templates that we created. And since the entry of information in our database is fully voluntary, the submission process had to be simple and as fast as possible. Therefore, we have created a user-friendly web-based application, which is called the online tool. And the online tool was designed in English, so that's because it's the official language in life sciences research. And it would also facilitate the entry of information because people could just copy-paste this information from articles that they have published before, for example. Finally, the online tool was designed in such a way that the information automatically integrated in the open access database. And the database is now available via our website. And while developing the website, particular attention was put on the user friendliness, but also having an attractive layout. But if you would like to have more information about the development of the Replace online tool, I invite you to scan the QR code here to check our article published in Frontiers 2 years ago. A bit later on during the project, we also optimized the Replace Online tool with new features. And one of the new features is the function My Group. So the idea behind this feature is to recreate the structure of a research group, but in a database. So in a group, in a database, you can either be an admin or a member. So the members would be more the PhD students, for example, and admin would be more the PI or the supervisors of the PhD student. So members and admin have different role. They can both have an overview of the methods submitted within a group in a database, but also submit new methods to the database. But only the admin have the right to check the methods submitted, modify them, and approve before it is published in a database. They also have the possibility to update the name of the contact person afterwards. So this new feature allows us to really have a quality check of the submitted information and in the end to obtain a reliable and up-to-date overview of the expertise we have in Belgium. And now I will give you a little bit more information about the history of the project. So as I said before, the project started in 2017 and it was officially launched by the Flemish region in Belgium. And at this time, it was also coordinated by Cienzano and the VUB. A kickoff symposium was organized in October 2017 in order to officially launch the project. In 2018, the Brussels government joined this project, so it is now a joint project. We worked a lot on the development of the Replace Online tool. And once the website was available, it was time to promote the project and collecting expertise. So for this, we participated in a lot of conferences in Belgium in order to increase the visibility of the project and to make the database more known to the scientific community. And we also went on site to universities and organizations in order to give a presentation about the project and to motivate people to add their expertise and contribute in the database. In 2020, of course, it was the COVID period, so it made the work a little bit more complex. And so a lot of online meetings were organized in order to continue the promotion of the project. And we also created new promotional materials, which are available via the Replace YouTube channel. In 2021, we also collaborated with the two cabinets of ministers of the regions that are funding the project. And the ministers sent a letter to the different scientists in Belgium in order to inform them about the project and to motivate them to add their method in the database. In 2022, we published our article in Frontiers, and the focus was also on expanding scientific impact. So we also participated in various national and international conferences during which we presented the project. Last year, we also focused on organizing events. So we have organized 2 study days in collaboration with the government, but also we have launched our series of educational webinars, and we have also organized a joint 3-hour symposium. And this year we have launched a new collaboration with a funding agency in Belgium in order to motivate again people to add their expertise in the Replace database. So you can see that during all these years, a lot of efforts and work has been done to involve the different stakeholders in Belgium and to really work in close collaboration with the scientific community in Belgium. And I'm very happy to say that we have just obtained the funding for the next 4 years of the project. So we are now sure that it will continue for another 4 years. And during all these years, we have faced different challenges regarding the project, and I will briefly mention some of them so you can have a better idea. So the first challenge of this project was to delineate the scope of the database, because we don't accept all the methods submitted in the database, and we had to define first which one we would include or not. First of all, as the project is focusing on Belgian expertise, we don't accept methods that have been submitted by someone working in another country. Also, methods that are linked to reduction and refinement are not considered in the scope, as this is really focusing on replacement. Also, methods that have the goal to sell or promote a product are not included because we don't consider the Replace database as a catalog. So we would then, sometimes it might be a bit confusing for companies or SMEs that want to contribute in the database. The second challenge is to identify expertise. As you all know, in academia, there is a very high turnover in personnel. So PhD students or master students are leaving the lab when they finish their experiments. Therefore, it might happen that the expertise is lost. Also, you have new techniques that are considered to help in the replacement of animal testing, such as omics or in silico methods. But they originate from a new out-of-the-box thinking. So they are not, firstly, directly created to replace animal testing. Therefore, the people that are using them don't always consider themselves as an expert in alternatives. So they are a bit reluctant to contribute. Also, the most important challenge of this project, as the entry of information in the database is fully voluntary, we need to convince scientists to collaborate and add their expertise. And this was very difficult, especially in the beginning of the project, as the project was not well established or well known. So people were a bit reluctant to collaborate. So we really had to work on building trust about the project. So what helped in the past was to go on site in organization and institutes and present the project, but also highlight why this is also a benefit for scientists to contribute. So, for example, creating collaborations, increase the visibility of their work. But also now we are working on creating more and more incentives. So we propose to people to present their work during the webinars. We also published a special issue in Methods X. We really try to work constantly on creating incentives to motivate people to collaborate. Also, the fact that we have our steering committee composed of experts from different institutes. We know from experience that having someone involved in an institution might increase the willingness of people to collaborate. Ensuring long-term funding is also a challenge of this project. So as I just said before, we know for sure that it will continue until 2028. But as all 3R platform, we need long-term funding in order to be able to create promotional material, to participate in conferences, to update the software in which database is built. So for all these things, it will be essential to see on the long term how it will evolve. And finally, the last challenge that I wanted to mention today is to ensure sustainability. So as you all know, softwares are evolving very rapidly, and the software that we are using for the replace database is already a bit outdated. So we have to see in the future how we can ensure sustainability of our platform. Also with the development of AI and machine learning, it might be useful to incorporate this approach in the database, but we have to see how to proceed with that. And I will now move on to the part during which I explain how you can use the replace database to explore the use of NAMs. But first of all, the current status of the database. So at the moment, we have collected more than 280 methods that have been submitted by 187 experts from 34 institutes in Belgium. But what is important to see on this slide is that each method is really associated to the name of an expert and also an organization where the method has been developed or is currently used. So it means that concretely you have access to a contact point, which really facilitates the access to information, but it will also promote collaborations between research teams in Belgium. And if we have a look at the organization who have contributed so far in the database, we can see that 77% of the methods we have been submitted by academia. So these are our main contributors. And 16% of the methods have been submitted by scientific institutes and 6% of them by industry. So we can see that this is a bit more difficult for industries. And if we take a look at the type of methods that we have in the database, you can see that this is mainly in vitro and ex vivo methods. We have this increase, we think, related to the importance of the development of stem cells technologies, but also organoid models. And we expect to have an increase regarding in silico methods, especially with the development of AI and machine learning. And you can see that we have also quite some methods that are referred to as others. So these are methods that have been submitted by the University of Ghent, so the Faculty of Veterinary Medicine. And they use a lot of dummy models to train their veterinary students. These are also expertise methods that we will collect in the database. And if we take a look at the area, you can see that we have mainly basic and applied research, which again makes sense as we have mainly academic institutions that have submitted their expertise in the database. And you can also see that the dummy models are reflected in the field of education and trainings. And we have also included in the database the possibility to add a status to your method. And this is very useful because, especially for people that are consulting the database, to see a bit if they are interested in a particular method. Is it already published? Is it only still in development? So then they can have a better idea of how the method is ready to be used. And if it's not the case, they can also help in the further development of particular methods, which will also, we hope, accelerate the development of this approach. And now, more in practice. So if you go on the Replace website, you will arrive on this page. Now you can already see that you have some methods already displayed with a short summary. You have also the date when it was updated last. And each method is really associated with the name of an expert and also an organization and a status. But if you would like to search for a particular methodology, you can use the search box here. And you can search for 3 types of information. First of all, if you have already a specific technology in mind, you can directly type it in the database and you will obtain the results associated, each time with, of course, a contact person and an organization. You can also look for specific endpoints. So if you look for a method that will help you to assess specific endpoints, you can type the endpoint in the search box. Finally, you can also look for methods within a specific scientific domain. So here, for example, for neuroscience, you already have some methods displayed. And we know that this is a field where not a lot of methods are available. So it's also nice to see that even in those fields, we already have some of the methods included. There is also the possibility to add filters to refine your research. So you can filter by type of methods or by area. So for example, if you are looking for a method in toxicology, but you want specifically an in vitro or in silico or even alternative in vivo, you can use the filters. Also by area, so if you look for a particular method used in regulatory toxicology, or if you want a method in basic and applied research, for example. We have also included the possibility to filter by organization. And this is particularly useful for big organizations that have a lot of departments and research group, or also for organizations that are scattered around different locations. For example, several campuses or several companies that have several locations. And this will really help them to have an internal overview of the expertise they have within the company or the institution. And it will also help them to demonstrate in which area they have expertise regarding the replacement of animal testing. And regarding the type of information you can find within a method itself. So you find, of course, a title and the scope of the method, most importantly, contact person and institutes. And we also make it mandatory to include a short method description, lab equipment, and method status. And also you can link it with external references. So here, for example, you had it via the OECD test guideline, but it can also be articles or abstracts or links to the website of a lab, for example. Another important part of our work is to share the knowledge about NAMs. So indeed, the Replace project really aims to highlight the progress in the field of NAMs, that especially the new methods that are developed in Belgium, but also increase the visibility of the experts that are using these NAMs, because each time their name is associated to a method. Also to build bridges between different stakeholders and strengthen local activities. And we do that via different communication channels. So first of all, on the Replace website, where you can find very various information. On the About page, you will find, for example, the promo video of Replace, but also the benefits of the project. On the library page, you can find various information as well, like information on resources about NAMs, different other databases that are existing and that are grouping information on NAMs. Also, fundings that are available. We know a lot about European funding, but you also have international funding included. And finally, also useful links, such as link to other triage centers, for example. We have also a very extensive event calendar where we share information about national and international conferences in the field of NAMS and alternative methods in general. But we also share information about trainings, webinars, or workshops where you can also increase your knowledge about NAMS. We also publish every month a news item about regular updates that happen in the field of NAMS or funding or awards that are available. And we have also launched 1 year ago our Replace newsletter. So this is also about international information. So if you would like to register, I've indicated the QR code here, so don't hesitate to scan it. But we share information about new methods that are included in the database, but also events that we are organizing ourselves and other various events, depending on what's happening in the field. But here, for example, we had the revision of the guidelines from the EMA or an advanced course on reprotox. But if there is any information that you would like that we share via these channels, we would be very happy to do so. So don't hesitate to contact us. And we are also very active on our social media. So we have a LinkedIn page, a Twitter account, and YouTube channel. And we share also information or short infographics about reverse recommendation, for example, or events that we are organizing or important updates in the field. And as I mentioned before, we also have our Replace educational webinars, during which we invite speakers from the database to present their work, and they discuss the methods that they are using and give a presentation about the expertise they have. And until now, we have organized 8 sessions discussing various topics. So Replace is a very useful tool for different stakeholders. First of all, for scientists, because they can connect with each other, they can exchange knowledge about a particular methodology, and this will, in the end, increase the confidence that we have in this approach. For ethical committees as well, because when they have to evaluate a research protocol, they have to see if an alternative is available, and via the database, they can easily see in which area the replacement is possible or not, and it will also facilitate their access to information. For regulators, because then they can also see the methods that are used and newly developed in Belgium, and they can also see which one can be potentially regulatory relevant. And finally, also for authorities or funding bodies, because then they can have a better idea of what is possible and what is done at the moment in the field of NAMS, and they can see in which area we don't have a lot. So they can also better allocate funding for this. So overall, I would say that the Replace project is a knowledge sharing platform on NAMS, and it can be used to learn more about the expertise and the technologies that are available at the moment, but also to promote the existing knowledge to the different stakeholders, so the scientific community, the ethical committees, but also the regulators. So overall, with this project, we hope that together we can help to replace and reduce animal testing. With that, I would like to thank you for your attention. And if you have any questions, please find our email address of contact here. Don't hesitate to let us know. Thank you.
USDA is an equal opportunity provider, employer, and lender.